History is full of rulers who believed their power stretched beyond the limits of human authority. Pharaohs proclaimed themselves gods, Roman emperors declared themselves divine, and Chinese emperors claimed the mandate of heaven. Yet among these grandiose gestures, one story stands out for its sheer audacity and strangeness: a king who declared war on the sea itself. In the early 5th century BCE, Xerxes I, the mighty emperor of Persia, launched one of the largest military campaigns in history, an invasion of Greece. To accomplish it, he needed to march his enormous army across the Hellespont, today's Dardanelles Strait, a turbulent stretch of water separating Asia from Europe. Engineers built a massive pontoon bridge to carry his men across, but before the crossing could be completed, a violent storm destroyed the structure. Most leaders might have rebuilt the bridge quietly. Not Xerxes. Enraged at the sea for defying him, the emperor ordered his soldiers to whip the ocean 300 times, throw chains into its waters, and curse it aloud as if it were a rebellious subject. He even branded the sea with hot irons, a theatrical ritual of domination. This bizarre episode, recorded by the Greek historian Herodotus, has fascinated readers for centuries. Was it madness? Symbolism? A propaganda stunt? To answer, we need to step back and understand both Xerxes and the colossal empire he ruled. Persia at its peak, the Achaemenid superpower. By the time Xerxes inherited the throne in 486 BCE, the Achaemenid Persian Empire was the largest the world had ever seen. Founded by Cyrus the Great in the 6th century BCE, expanded by Cambyses II, and consolidated by Darius the Myrrh, Xerxes' father, Persia stretched from the Indus Valley in the east to the Aegean Sea in the west, from Egypt in the south to the steppes of Central Asia in the north. It was a multi-ethnic empire, home to Persians, Medes, Babylonians, Egyptians, Jews, Greeks, and countless others. Its strength lay in its tolerance of local customs and its efficient system of satraps, governors, who managed far-flung provinces. But with size came challenges. To maintain dominance, Persian kings had to display power not only through military might, but also through acts of symbolic control. Nature itself, rivers, mountains, seas, became canvases upon which kings projected authority. To Xerxes, the storm that destroyed his bridge was more than bad luck. It was a challenge to imperial authority. Xerxes, the man and the monarch Xerxes III, often remembered as the archetypal Persian despot in Greek accounts, was born around 518 BCE, the son of Darius and Atossa, daughter of Cyrus the Great. His lineage was impeccable. He carried both the founding blood of Cyrus and the imperial legitimacy of Darius. When Darius died in 486 BCE, Xerxes inherited not just an empire but also unfinished business. His father had begun preparing for a renewed campaign against Greece after the humiliating Persian defeat at Marathon, 490 BCE. Xerxes picked up this mantle, determined to succeed where Darius had failed. But Xerxes was not merely a warmonger. He was a ruler shaped by Persian traditions of grandeur. He built monumental palaces at Persepolis and Susa, adorned with reliefs depicting him as the center of cosmic order. Like many rulers of antiquity, he saw himself as a representative of divine will, a king of kings who stood above ordinary men. This worldview helps explain why he treated the sea like a rebellious servant. For Xerxes, the world was supposed to obey. The invasion of Greece, ambition on an epic scale. The Persian invasion of Greece in 480 BCE was one of the largest military mobilizations in ancient history. Herodotus, who loved big numbers, claimed Xerxes gathered over 2 million soldiers, though modern historians believe the true figure was closer to 200,000, 300,000, still staggering for the time. The army included Persians, Medes, Egyptians, Phoenicians, Indians, and others, a truly multinational force. To feed and move such a horde was a logistical nightmare. Xerxes ordered vast stockpiles of food, built roads, and dug a canal through Mount Athos so his navy could avoid the stormy cape where a previous fleet had been wrecked. But the most famous feat of engineering was the bridge across the Hellespont. Without it, his army could not march from Asia into Europe. Building the Bridge of Nations, Xerxes' engineers devised an ingenious solution: a pontoon bridge, constructed by lashing hundreds of ships together side by side, anchoring them, and laying planks across their decks to form a roadway. Two such bridges were built, one for soldiers and one for supplies. This floating causeway stretched more than a kilometer across the turbulent waters of the Hellespont. A marvel of ancient engineering, and then came disaster. A storm struck. The waves rose and the fragile bridge was torn apart before Xerxes' army could cross. For ordinary people, this was an act of nature. For Xerxes, it was insubordination by the sea. The War on the Ocean Herodotus describes Xerxes' reaction in detail. The king ordered his soldiers to whip the sea 300 times with chains and leather whips. They were to shout curses at it, condemning it for its barbarous behavior. Fetters, chains were thrown into the water, symbolically binding it as punishment. Hot irons were plunged into the waves, branding the sea like a rebellious slave. Xerxes also ordered the engineers who had overseen the failed bridge to be executed, though sources differ on whether this was carried out. Then, without hesitation, he commanded the construction of a new bridge. This time it succeeded. Xerxes and his colossal army crossed into Europe, the sea symbolically humbled beneath his authority. Madness or symbolism? To modern eyes, Xerxes' war on the sea seems absurd, almost comical. How could a rational leader believe that whipping water would make it obey? But context matters. Ancient rulers often treated natural forces as conscious entities that could be appeased, punished, or compelled. By staging a public ritual of domination, Xerxes wasn't just venting anger. He was performing an act of imperial theater. His soldiers, drawn from dozens of cultures, needed to see their king as a man whose authority extended over all things, even the elements. Whipping the sea was a way of declaring, "Nothing resists Persia, not even nature." Herodotus, a Greek, portrayed this as arrogance and hubris, an example of Persian tyranny. But within the Persian worldview, it was likely understood as a demonstration of royal power and divine sanction. After the crossing, triumph and defeat, once across the Hellespont, Xerxes' invasion began in earnest. At first, success seemed certain. His army swept through northern Greece, subduing cities and states. At Thermopylae, a small Greek force led by King Leonidas of Sparta made a legendary last stand, delaying but not stopping the Persian advance. Xerxes' forces marched on and captured Athens, burning much of the city. For a moment, Persia seemed poised to conquer Greece entirely, but the tides of fortune shifted ironically at sea. At the Battle of Salamis, 480 BCE, the Greek navy, smaller but more maneuverable, lured the Persians into narrow straits and inflicted a devastating defeat. Xerxes, fearing his supply lines were vulnerable, retreated with much of his army, leaving a smaller force that would be crushed at Plataea, 479 BCE. In the end, the invasion failed. Persia remained a superpower, but Greece remained free, setting the stage for the rise of Athens and the eventual wars of Alexander the Great. The legacy of Xerxes' ocean punishment. The image of Xerxes whipping the sea has echoed through history as a symbol of hubris. To the Greeks, it epitomized the arrogance of tyrants who believed they could command the natural world. Yet it also tells us something deeper about the relationship between rulers and nature in antiquity. Kings were expected to impose order on chaos, whether that chaos came from rebellious provinces or raging rivers. By dramatizing his dominance over the Hellespont, Xerxes was performing a ritual of cosmic control, showing his army and subjects that he was master of both men and elements. Later, writers and philosophers mocked this gesture, but it is worth remembering that even in modern times, leaders have staged similarly symbolic acts, whether planting flags on the moon, detonating nuclear tests, or declaring wars on abstract forces like poverty or drugs. The impulse to show mastery over the uncontrollable is timeless. Conclusion: the king and the sea. The story of Xerxes declaring war on the ocean may seem bizarre, even laughable to us today. But beneath its strangeness lies a revealing truth about human nature and power. In 480 BCE, as the Persian king prepared to march his colossal army into Europe, a storm destroyed his bridge. Xerxes could have quietly rebuilt it. Instead, he staged a theatrical punishment of the sea, whipping, chaining, and cursing it before thousands of onlookers. To him, it was not absurd but necessary, a demonstration that even nature must bow before the will of the King of Kings. And so, in the annals of history, Xerxes is remembered not only for his palaces, armies, and wars, but also for that extraordinary moment when an emperor declared battle against the sea and if only in ritual, chained the ocean itself.